You thought this was an accident. You thought the algorithm or chance or your own wandering curiosity brought you here. It did not. I did. Breathe. Just for a moment, stop and listen. Not with your ears, but with the part of you that has been waiting. The part that has been whispering in the quiet hours that something is shifting, that a season is ending, that a door you didn't even know was open is about to close. This is not a general broadcast. This is a private dispatch, sent directly to your spirit at this exact moment, because the time for hints is over. The period of gentle nudges, of soft whispers, of faint signs placed in your path, that time has concluded. You have reached a boundary, a divine threshold. And so I speak to you now, not in the voice of thunder, but in the quiet clarity that comes just before the storm breaks. Urgent, but calm. Serious, but not to frighten you. To awaken you. You have felt the silence, haven't you? Those times you called out or wept or questioned, and the heavens seemed like brass. You interpreted it as abandonment, as my indifference. You were wrong. That silence was not absence. It was incubation. It was the necessary dark for the roots to grow deep, so that what is coming would not topple you. I was teaching you to walk by faith, not by sight, because soon the sights will change, and only your roots will hold you steady. But now, the season of silent preparation is complete, which is why I say to you, with all the gravity of eternity, ignore this sign, and you will regret it. This is the sign you have been trained to recognize, not a billboard in the sky, not a stranger's prophecy. It is the convergence in your spirit. It is the strange peace that accompanies this heaviness you feel as you listen. It is the recognition that these words are keys fitting into locks within you that you've been fumbling with for years. You have missed other signs, smaller ones. I placed them like breadcrumbs along a path you were too afraid, or too proud, or too wounded to take. The closed door that felt like a betrayal, but saved you. The ended relationship that shattered you, but freed you. The dream that faded not to punish you, but to make space for a purpose that would actually fit the person I created you to be. You saw them as misfortune or failure. They were mercies. They were course corrections you weren't ready to understand. But this sign is different. This is the final marker before the road forks in a way that cannot be undone. This is the last, clear, unmistakable instruction before you enter a territory where the guidance changes from a voice in front of you to a compass within you. I am calibrating that compass now. This is the calibration. Your regret would not be my punishment. It would be the natural, agonizing consequence of choosing the familiar ache over the terrifying liberation. It would be the regret of the sailor who, after surviving the storm, chooses to cling to the wreckage instead of swimming for the shore he can finally see. The shore that has always been there, waiting in the fog. I have waited for this moment in your timeline. I have waited for your heart to be soft enough to hear this, yet strong enough to carry it. I have waited for the noise of the world to die down just enough, for your own internal clamor to quiet just enough, for this signal to come through with clarity. That time is now, today, this hour. You are not here by mistake. You are here by divine appointment. The love that has pursued you your entire life has now positioned you here, in this solitary moment, to receive a truth that will begin to untangle the knot of your past and illuminate the path of your future. This is not about religion. This is about reality, the spiritual reality that undergirds everything you see, and you are finally ready to perceive it. So, we begin. In the next moments, I will show you what has been hidden. Not from you, but for you. We will look at the silence, and you will understand its kindness. We will examine the missed signs, and you will see their protection. We will confront the ending that is already in motion, and you will glimpse the genesis it makes possible. But you must decide. Right now. Will you ignore this sign? Will you close this tab, shrug off this feeling, dismiss this as coincidence or emotional manipulation, and return to a life that has already begun to outgrow you? Or will you stay? Will you heed the one sign you cannot afford to miss? The choice is, and has always been, yours. I am here. I have been here. And I am speaking. Listen. You chose to stay. That was the first sign. The first act of trust in the quiet pull you felt. Do not underestimate the significance of that choice. In a world screaming for your attention, you chose to listen to the sound beneath the sound. You are already different than you were a few minutes ago. Now let me pull back the first veil. You have asked in your anger and in your tears, why? Why the confusion? Why the delay? Why the circuitous, painful path? Why couldn't I just tell you, show you, make it clear? I will answer you. Imagine a master painter, standing before a student. The student demands to see the final, magnificent mural, but the student's eyes are covered in dust and grit from the road. The light in the room is dim. Their hands are shaky. If the painter revealed the full, vibrant, breathtaking vision in that moment, what would happen? The student would not see its beauty. They would only see a blur of overwhelming color. They would not understand its depth. They would feel inadequate, blinded, and defeated. So the painter does not begin with the revelation. He begins with the cleansing of the eyes. He turns up the light, degree by gentle degree. He steadies the hands. He teaches the mixing of single colors. This is not cruelty. This is the deepest kindness. The masterpiece is coming, but you must be made ready to see it, or its revelation would ruin you. Your life, until this point, has been the cleansing of your eyes, the turning up of the light. The confusion was the dust being washed away. The waiting was your spiritual eyes adjusting to a brightness you had never encountered. The pain was the strengthening of muscles in your soul that had atrophied in the dark. I could not show you the map while you were refusing to acknowledge you were lost. I could not give you the new while you were white-knuckling the old, broken thing, convinced it was your only treasure. So I worked in the hidden places. In the lonely nights, I was there. Not as a sudden rescuer, but as the silent weaver, taking the threads of your poor choices, the threads of others' betrayals, the threads of your grief and your hope, and I began to weave them into a fabric of incredible resilience. A fabric that can now bear the weight of glory. You only felt the tug and pull of the needle. You saw only the tangled mess on the underside. You cried out, asking why I was making a mess of your life. But I was not making a mess. I was making a masterpiece on a scale you could not comprehend. The silence was where that weaving happened. If I had spoken, you would have argued. You would have begged for a different color, a simpler pattern. You would have tried to take the needle from my hand. Your wisdom in that pain was finite. My love for you is infinite. So I loved you enough to work in silence, to protect you from your own limited vision. Now the fabric is strong. The pattern at the beginning of the weave is finally making sense to you. You can look back and see where a dark thread was necessary for contrast. You can see where a thread was cut, not to ruin the design, but to integrate a new, stronger color. This is why everything couldn't be explained earlier. You were learning the language of trust, the language of surrender, the language of spirit. You were translating pain into perspective. You were learning that my no to your small, desperate request was a yes to a destiny so vast it would have terrified you. You called it suffering. I called it sacred preparation. And now you are at the threshold of seeing. Not the entire mural, not yet, but a central, crucial section of it. The part that explains the journey. This is the sign you must heed, the dawning of this understanding. The moment your past transforms from a random series of tragedies into a deliberate, purposeful pilgrimage. To ignore this sign is to choose to see yourself as a victim of chaos forever. It is to look at the nearly completed fabric and see only a rag, It is to stand before the emerging masterpiece and declare it a mess. The regret would be a lifetime of walking in the truth of a lie. The lie that your pain was pointless, that I was absent, that you are alone. You are not alone. You have never been alone. The weaver has been at the loom the entire time. The sign before you is the invitation to shift your gaze, to look not at the individual, painful stitches, but at the emerging picture they are creating. It is the invitation to trade your narrative of accident for my narrative of purpose. This is heavy, I know. To accept that I was sovereign in your pain is a weight that feels impossible to carry, but it is also the only weight that can anchor you. The weight of meaning is lighter than the weight of despair. Breathe this in. We are not yet talking about your future. We are still healing your past. By seeing it through my eyes, by understanding why I was silent, by recognizing that every sign you missed was a lesson in learning how to see. The next part will require courage, for we will look directly at what is ending. The door that is closing. You have felt its breeze on your neck for months. You have heard its hinges groan. You have pretended not to notice. We can no longer pretend. Are you ready to look at the ending that is not an end, but a necessary release? The choice remains yours, to heed the sign, or to ignore it, to understand, or to forever wonder. Now we come to it, the ending. You have felt it, a certain fatigue that sleep does not cure, a certain emptiness in places that used to bring you comfort, a voice inside that has grown quiet, not peaceful, but resigned. You are mourning something that is still breathing. You are attending a funeral for a version of your life that is still, technically, alive. This is the mercy of an ending before the end. I allow the soul to depart first, so the body does not fight so hard when its time comes. That relationship, that job, that identity, that dream you've carried since childhood, that bitterness you've nursed like a familiar friend, that story you tell about yourself, the victim, the struggler, the one who never gets the break. It is dying. You have been trying to resuscitate it. You have been performing spiritual CPR on a corpse, begging for a miracle, not realizing the miracle is that it is finally still. You are exhausted from the effort. Your hands are bruised from the pressure. Your own breath is ragged. Stop. The door is closing. Not with a slam to frighten you, but with a slow, irrevocable swing. The light from that room is fading. The sounds from within are growing distant. This is the sign you have been ignoring. You call it depression. You call it a rut. You call it bad luck or a dry season. It is none of these things. It is a divine conclusion. I am drawing a line under a chapter of your story. The ink is dry. The lesson is written. The narrative arc is complete. To ignore this sign is to become a ghost in your own life. It is to haunt the hollow shell of what was, forever trying to relive a moment that has passed its expiration date. The regret will be a life of haunting, a life of whispers where there should be proclamation, a life of shadows where there should be substance. You are afraid of the emptiness on the other side of that door. You have defined yourself by that room, its furniture, its limitations, its familiar aches. Who are you without that pain? Without that struggle? You have no idea. And that terrifies you more than the suffering you know. So you cling. You white-knuckle the doorknob, trying to hold it open. You throw your weight against the tide, and you are breaking your own spirit in the process. I am telling you now, let it close. The grief you feel is not a sign you are doing wrong. It is a sign you loved. You invested. You hoped. Honor that grief. Then release it. It has done its work. It has softened you. It has carved out a new depth in you. That depth is not a tomb. It is a reservoir. It will hold living water for what comes next, but only if you stop trying to fill it with the dust of what is past. What is ending was never meant to be permanent. It was a container. For a time it held you. It protected you. It gave you a shape. But you have grown. The container has become a constraint. The shell is cracking because the life inside is too vibrant, too large for the old form. You are not being punished with an ending. You are being respected with a transition. I would be a cruel keeper if I left you in a cage you have outgrown, simply because you are familiar with its bars. Look at the signs of the ending with clear eyes. The loss of passion, the constant friction, the feeling of being a stranger in your own skin, the prayers that hit the ceiling and fall back as ash. These are not signs of my absence. They are signs of evolution. The caterpillar does not weep because the world goes dark inside the chrysalis. It rests. It is reshaped. It understands, at a cellular level, that its current form is not its final form. You are in the chrysalis. The darkness is not your enemy. The confinement is not your prison. It is the womb of your becoming. But you must consent to the transformation. You must release the form of the caterpillar. You must trust the design coded into your very being. This is the crossroads. This is the sign. You can ignore it. You can try to reverse the process. You can struggle against the very pressure that is forming your wings. You can choose to remain a caterpillar in a dissolving world. The regret will be watching others take flight, while you wonder what held you down, not realizing it was your own hands, clinging to a leaf that has long since withered. Or, you can let go. You can inhale this dark, sacred air. You can surrender the old shape. You can accept the ending as my severe mercy. You can trust that the one who designed the metamorphosis will not abandon you in the middle of it. The door is closing. Stop holding it open. Turn around. Face the corridor you have been afraid of. It is empty, yes, but it is clean. It is quiet. It is prepared. And at its end, not a door, but an open space, a sky. We are not yet talking about the flight. We are still speaking of the release, the necessary, painful, sacred release. The next part will ask you the hardest question, the question you have been avoiding, the question that the ending has been trying to ask you for years. You have turned from the door. You are standing in the corridor. It is empty. It is quiet. Your own breath sounds loud here. The echo of the closing door has faded. This is the emptiness you feared. This is the in-between. Now, I ask you the question, the one that has been waiting for you in this hollow space. The question the ending was meant to provoke. Who are you when you are nothing, when the title is stripped away, when the relationship label is gone, when the achievement is mute, when the pain you've used as an identity is finally laid down, when you are not a victim, a survivor, a helper, a struggler, a success, a failure, when you are not what they say you are, when you are not even what you say you are. Who is left? This is the sign you have been avoiding your entire life. The sign that points inward, to the core of your being where I reside. You have built countless altars to the things you do, the things you have, the things done to you. You have worshipped at these altars, begging them to give you an answer to this question. They cannot. They were never designed to. So I have gently, persistently knocked them over, one by one. The career that defined you, I allowed it to falter. The relationship that completed you, I allowed it to end. The dream that drove you, I allowed it to dissolve. The grievance that fueled you, I have disarmed it. You have felt this as a stripping, a nakedness, a cruel exposure. It is a homecoming. You are being returned to zero, to the fundamental equation of your existence, spirit and breath, child and creator, loved one and love itself. This emptiness is not a punishment. It is the most sacred space you will ever occupy. It is the holy ground where your manufactured self ends and your eternal self can finally breathe. The void is my canvas. But first, it must be truly void. You have spent a lifetime running from this question. You have filled the silence with noise. You have filled the schedules with distraction. You have filled your identity with the reflections in other people's eyes. You have been a collection of echoes, believing it was a symphony. The ending was my mercy to silence the noise, to remove the mirrors. Here in this corridor, there is only you, and me, and the question. Who are you? Not the you that pleases or performs or protects. Not the you that is reacting, surviving, compensating. Who is the you before the world laid a hand on you? Who is the you I conceived in the timelessness of my thought? The you that is an irreducible spark of my own nature? The you that exists when all doing ceases? This is the transformation that must happen before the external change. The new thing cannot be built on the old foundation. The new wine would burst the old wineskins. So I have emptied you. I have brought you here, to this disorienting, liberating ground zero of your spirit. To ignore this sign is to spend the rest of your life rebuilding the same broken altars with new materials. It is to find a new title, a new relationship, a new cause, and hang your soul upon it, only to watch it too crumble in time. The regret will be a cycle of endless, exhausting reconstruction, always wondering why nothing ever feels like home. Home is here, in this emptiness with me. Where you are nothing the world recognizes, and everything I declared good. This is the heart of your healing, not a healing that removes the scars, but a healing that reveals the scars are not who you are. They are simply places where I proved faithful. They are part of your history, not your identity. I know the terror of this question. It feels like annihilation. It feels like you are disappearing. You are. The false self is. The constructed self is. The defended, curated, performing self is. And its disappearance is the single greatest blessing of your life. What remains, what has always remained, is indestructible. It is the part of you that recognized my voice in part one. It is the part of you that chose to stay. It is the part of you that felt a strange relief when I said to let the door close. That is you, the eternal you, the you that is connected to me by the very breath in your lungs. I am asking you now to abide here, in this hollow, holy space, to resist the frantic urge to fill it, to let the question hang in the air without rushing for an answer from the old sources. Your patience has always run out before my work was complete. You have always rushed to paint the canvas while it was still wet, muddying the colors. This time, wait. Let the canvas dry. Let the emptiness be. Let the silence speak the name for you that you cannot speak for yourself. The next part is where the silence breaks. Not with a crash, but with a whisper, the first word of a new language, the first glimpse of the form that is emerging from the chrysalis. But you must be empty to hear it. You must be still to see it. You must answer the question not with your mind, but with your surrender. Stay here, in the corridor, a little longer. Breathe the empty air. It is charged with my presence. The void is not vacant. It is full of me, waiting for you to stop looking for anything else. The sign is this: the profound peace that can be found only when you have nothing left to lose, because you have finally let it all go. That peace is your compass. It is the true north of your spirit. If you ignore this, if you run from the emptiness back into the noise, you will regret the peace you abandoned. Are you ready to be still? To be nothing? To listen for the whisper that comes only when everything else is gone? The choice is before you, in the quiet. You have stayed in the quiet. You have let the question hang. You have not rushed to fill the void with old answers. Now watch. In the emptiness, a single point of light appears. Not from above, but from within the very space you occupy. It is small. It is steady. It is yours. This is the whisper, the first word of the new language. It is not a blueprint. It is not a 10-step plan. It is a knowing. A deep, resonant, internal yes that feels more like remembrance than revelation. It is the compass needle, finally free from the magnet of everyone else's expectations, swinging true. This is what I have been protecting. This is what the silence was guarding. This fragile, undeniable flame in your core. It could not survive the noise. It would have been argued away, rationalized into doubt, sacrificed on the altar of other people's opinions. It needed the sanctuary of the stripped-down self to be seen, to be felt, to be acknowledged. This is your clarity, not a shout of command, but a quiet alignment. You feel it as a pull, a gentle magnetic draw toward a possibility that feels both terrifying and like home. It is the idea that has always lingered at the edge of your mind, the dream you dismissed as too impractical, too audacious. It is the act of kindness that feels like your secret mission. It is the creative impulse you've buried under responsibility. It is the forgiveness you know you are finally strong enough to offer. It is not a map of the entire journey. It is the first step, illuminated. All the paths of your past have converged here, to this point of departure. Every skill, every failure, every joy, every heartbreak, they have all been secretly depositing tools into a spiritual account you didn't know you had. Now, standing before this new beginning, you realize you are equipped, not with everything, but with the exact, peculiar, perfect things you will need for this road. This is divine timing. Your impatience was the child in the back seat asking, "Are we there yet?" while the scenery was being perfectly arranged ahead of you. We were never lost. We were navigating. We were avoiding dead ends you couldn't see. We were waiting for other travelers to get into position, whose paths were destined to intersect with yours at the precise moment of mutual need. You see now why you couldn't have this clarity yesterday. You were still clutching the luggage of a former journey. Your hands were full. You could not have taken hold of this new thing. The sign here is the alignment itself, the deep, inner yes, the peace that accompanies the terrifying thought, the courage that feels like a quiet pulse, not a war cry. To ignore this sign is the ultimate regret. It is to have the veil lifted, to see the path begin to glow at your feet, and to deliberately close your eyes and choose to stay in the dark corridor forever. It is to choose the comfort of familiar paralysis over the risk of sacred motion. The regret will be a lifetime of what if, haunted by the ghost of the person you were born to be. This is why everything was hidden. This moment, this choice. I could not risk you seeing it before you were strong enough to choose it. Before you knew, in the very marrow of your soul, that this path is not about success or failure as the world defines it. It is about obedience to the truest rhythm of your own spirit. It is about walking in sync with me. The warning is this: this clarity will not shout. It will not compete. It is a whisper in a world of screams. If you return to the noise, you will lose the signal. You must cultivate the quiet you have found here. You must protect it. This is your most sacred duty now. The mercy is this: the path will unfold one step at a time. The light will move as you move. You are not asked to see the summit. You are only asked to see the next illuminated stone on the path, and to trust that the one who lit the stone also prepared the way. Look at that first step. What do you see? It is not grandiose. It is likely humble. A conversation, a single act of creation, a release of a debt, a no to a good thing to make space for the right thing, a yes to a small beginning that feels enormous in its significance. That is your sign. That is your invitation. The ending was for this. The emptiness was for this. The question was for this. Amen.